everybody. Welcome to another episode of Snap Decisions. I am your host with the most, your Snap DJ, and I am here with a returning guest, a man who I've grown to know very well on Twitter. It is Gunny T. Gunny, man, welcome to the show. Appreciate having you back, and I got a lot to talk to you about from my Infinite run and so on and so forth. But how are you doing, man?
Oh man, Joe, I'm doing so fantastic. You have no idea how happy it made me whenever you sent me a message saying that you had made it to Infinite. You were sending me messages like, "Hey, I'm so close. Here
Literally
it goes." And I just do a little coaching there, like, "Hey, be a robot. Make sure you do it over and over." And you did. You did a fantastic job. It's so cool. I'm so happy for you, Joe, that you got there.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, everybody was so supportive. Yourself and Safety Blade and the kids Snap and everybody that I know. Yeah, it was so cool. Like, all I'll say is, like, and I've said it, I know, on the show, but man, when you get into the 90s, right? And I at one point got up 2 away, so I was literally 1 game away, and all those thoughts start creeping in your head, like I was here before, and I dropped all the way down. But then it's like, with me, it was really, I think what I really learned, from yourself, the first time you were on my show, I've grown a lot better at knowing when to leave the game.
That's such a huge piece.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Like you've gone over that on here and in several other places, but I don't take chances is what it came down to. Like I used to stay in games thinking, I can pull a card out of my hat and still win this.
If they don't have the blob, I can win.
Yes, I've taken chances like that before, but I noticed that was one thing. Like I had some losing streaks in the process. Like when I got up to 90, I was at 98, or 2 away from Infinite. I lost like 4 games straight. But each one of those games was only 1 cube.
Yep.
So I was like, whatever, it is what it is.
That's being the robot. Just knowing when you got to retreat, because it'll eventually come if you just know the games you're going to win and take those wins. Don't worry about losing your 1 cube.
Yeah, it's very true. Like I would tell anybody, obviously I have them in front of me here, but this is when I first had Gunny on my show. This is still listed over in Lambie's Discord? I imagine it probably is still there, right? Yeah. But
I've seen them, but.
And of course, you had a video out for this as well. This is your first video on YouTube. So check it out. If I know a lot of people, and I was shocked people are coming to me actually and asking me for advice after this. I've only ever done it once, but it's like, if they're kind of similar to me and they were struggling and stuff like that, I'm kind of telling them a lot of the same things. But it's, I mean, you go down this list, know your big plays. That's knowing your deck.
Well, I think instead of doing that, Joe, why don't we just break down your climb to Infinite, and then like we'll talk about each of the rules and then talk about like how you used it.
Yeah, we could do that.
So, like with the first one, you're going to know your big plays. What was one of the big differences you made this season? Because I heard you talking about it yesterday, or I guess today, whenever I was listening to your podcast from yesterday. But what was the big thing that you did deck choice wise?
So I never switched decks. I never got frustrated, and I never switched decks, because that was what it was. I'd get frustrated and I changed decks, and I did not do that.
So what did that do for your knowing your big plays, like in your confidence there?
Helped me to exactly know my deck and know how I could win and when I can't.
Yeah, normally decks have like a few different lines to them. Like, hey, if I draw this card at this time, I play it in this order to get this kind of effect. I need to play this card over in this location to do this. I think you were playing the Cersei Annihilus deck, right?
Annihilus, Cersei, and then there was an Alioth in the deck as well.
Yep. So early, if you have a Cersei in hand, you're playing more for that path, or as opposed to with the Alioth, the Annihilus path. And those are just the kind of plays that you get, and you know how to use your deck effectively and knowing your big plays. Like your big play there is playing that Cersei down and taking over that right-hand lane. Whenever a lot of times, especially in the past, people have tried to fill that right-hand lane so that way they don't get that -8 power void. Well, if you're not even sending it over because you're using a Cersei, boom, you've won that lane. And now you drop your Alioth over into the middle or left lane to make sure they can't deal with your sentry there, or put something big like a blob in that location.
I had a Mockingbird in the deck with a Mysterio as well, so that was another way to But yeah, no, you're 100% right, and that's a thing that I think probably a lot of other players do. When you start losing a little bit, you lose like 3-4 games straight, all of a sudden you think, well, this deck sucks. This isn't going to work, and I'm going to change decks. But like like you mentioned, you need to really know that deck that you're playing. You need to know that deck inside and out, and like you said, know your win conditions. And then if you switch decks, you're starting over in essence, and you're going to know.
Yeah. Now, one caveat I have found to that rule is sometimes decks will kind of rotate their ability out of the meta, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's say, for instance, let's say you're playing a Tribunal deck before Arishem came out.
Yep.
Tribunal may have been doing really well, but a big counter to the Arishem deck has been Enchantress and Rogue. So your Tribunal deck just might not be playing right. So you have to be able to identify that as well. And switching decks isn't always bad, especially if you're adjusting to the meta and not just because you're losing. You're learning a new deck.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And the majority of things I was recognizing what I was playing as well, because what I was seeing was Silver Surfer. I was seeing some Zoo. I was seeing Tribunal a few times where I was. So I was seeing what I was playing. I knew what I was weak against. Zoo, for whatever reason, was giving me a hard time. They were just playing too fast, and they were getting stuff out quickly, and I just couldn't keep up with the speed. So if they blurted out a whole bunch of cards, I knew on curve they had a Khazar, they had a Blue Marvel, I knew I was dead because Gilgamesh is coming out at the end. So they were one of the games where I'm like, nope. This doesn't work well, and I'm just gonna walk away on one cube.
Yeah, sometimes there's almost never a deck that's good into everything. So recognizing your poor matchups is another key piece there.
Yep.
So you can take those retreats. All right, what's next on the list?
Let us see here. I'll pull it up. Snap on turns 2, 3, and 4.
All right. Were you able to use that effectively?
I was. Yeah. I'm a bad snapper. I always have been, but again, like you said, and that goes hand in hand with knowing your deck. If I'm watching my opponent, so I'm looking to see what they're doing. Let's say they skip turn 1, and let's say I'm looking at 2 cards in my hand that I know. Let's say I have my Mysterio
Mockingbird, right?
Yep, right, exactly. So I have Mockingbird in hand. I'm going to play my Mysterio down on turn 2, and I already have another card out from turn 1. Let's say it might have been the Hood or something along those lines. Then that's a snap condition to me because they're a card behind me now. I'm coming out here. I've got these 2 things down. My Mockingbird's going to be very cheap that I could probably get out on turn 3. So I'm already kind of ahead of the game. So yeah, that was a snap thing for me. Turn 3, same thing. It's really just watching to see like the pace of the game is what I was doing. And then obviously just again, like you said before, knowing what I have. If I'm sitting on a high card like an Alioth in my opening hand, or maybe an Annihilus and an Alioth, well, that's rough because you're not going to get any early game momentum or early plays. So then you got to wonder, okay, let's see what they're doing. If it looks like they're getting great turns to start the game, then you got to start thinking, yeah, maybe I'll hang back a little bit, see what the next turn brings me, and then we'll see from there. But yeah. 100%.
Now, question for you: whenever you were making those early snaps, did you see the cube equity go up from that? People retreating less because they thought, hey, it's only turn 3. I could maybe see this for 2 cubes or.
Yeah, for sure. I got a couple 8 cube wins doing that.
Yeah, you get 8 cube wins. I've noticed sometimes you'll just get an extra cube out of it, right? You might get 2 cubes instead of 1, or get a good 4 cube win, right? People just kind of stick it out.
Yep.
But that's what those early snaps are for.
Yeah. Yeah, people tend to not want to leave so early because they want to see more from their deck.
Oh, they do, Joe? Do they want to see the end of the game?
They want to see the end of the game. I'm well aware of that problem. Yes, I've done that a lot myself. So yeah. So it's.
Yeah, that's just such a key point. And then another piece there that is knowing when to retreat, right? Just because you've snapped early doesn't mean you made a poor snap decision. You could have your Mysterio Mockingbird, and you make your snap. That next location reveals, and you discard your Mockingbird. It's not because you did a bad snap. You can still retreat on that game if it doesn't end up panning out for you. But just because you snapped early and end up having to retreat doesn't mean you did it wrong.
Correct. Yeah. Many times a third location, you're only seeing the first 2 locations. Many times that third location will just kill you. Yeah. And you're just like, well, then you're kind of hurt. So yeah, you're right. You can't, you're still not taking a huge loss, Yeah, you bet on something, it didn't pan out that particular time, but you're not sticking around to hope that you win and then end up losing 4 cubes.
So, yeah, one of the things I like to say is the key to winning this game is learning how to lose.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's so true, and it's so. I've said this so many times on the show to other guests too. Like it's so hard to break yourself from always wanting to win things. We're conditioned, at a very young age to want to win games, no matter how it is. This game though is different because, and you could compare it to poker, but it's very different because you have to know as much when to lose as when to try to win the game.
Yeah,
So,
and just losing less is winning more.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, what's the next one, Joe?
Don't bet on drawing into a better hand. Oh boy,
yeah,
that's a big one. Yeah, that's a big lesson that I took with me into the run, because that was what I used to do a lot. I look at it, I'm like, man, I know I can beat this. If I draw this.
There's 4 cards left in the deck. How can I not draw either Annihilus or Cersei? One of those 2 cards is going to win me the game. I'm going to draw one of them. Oh, wait, I got one of the other 3 cards. Or well, I guess 100%. One of the other 2 cards.
100%. My first run to 99, that epic one where I dropped all the way back to 80 because I just got so angry after losing the games. And I was back. That was back when Galactus was prevalent. So I'm playing Galactus. So that was what I was doing. I'm trying to wave him out. I'm thinking, oh man, all I need is a Galactus here, and I win the game. And I'm playing. I'm not seeing him. I'm thinking I'm going to get it. I don't. I lose 4 cubes.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, that's 100. It's a big one. It really is. And again, it's tough to break yourself from that because you're always thinking, like you were saying, that luck is going to be on your side. You're always thinking, man, I'm gonna get it. There's, like you said, there's 4 cards left in my deck. I know I'm gonna pull. Well, yeah, you don't.
And that really comes into key, really, when it comes to like retreating, right? So if somebody gives you a snap on turn 3 or 4, maybe even 5, they give you a snap, and you're just like, hey, I can win if I draw this 1 card. Well, you didn't. And there's a chance that you won't. So instead of taking that risk, like just bet on sure things, or at least things that are very likely to win. Like if you have all your stuff, if you have that Cersei play that you're going to make, sometimes Cersei, and I know this because it happened to me, will pop you out a Hobgoblin, and your opponent's side of the board is full, and you're like, well, that lost me the game. Like that stuff is going to happen, but I'm not betting on I'm not betting on drawing into Cersei. Like I'm betting on making a play where Cersei doesn't make play. It was the 1 card that lost me the game, and I think I lost by just a few points there. Had been anything else, it was a 5-drop. I would have been fine.
She did it to me a few times. She got me. She drew a beast and beasted the whole entire lane away. And I was like, yep, well.
I think I laughed out loud on that game. It was just so funny. I was like, oh my God, I had this locked up, this great win. It was perfect. And then boom, like, oh my God, you just did that.
100%. I was doing the same thing. I had to chuckle at it because I'm like, well, it's part of the game. It's RNG. It's part of the thing. It's going to happen with her every now and then. But yeah, it's just, that particular thing is, I think a lot of people do this. I think they just think they're so confident in themselves and in the luck that they're getting and in their cards that they just overestimate it and think, I'm going to win this. I'm going to pull that card I need. I'm going to win it. And probably, well, I mean, odds wise, if they've got 4 cards left, it's a 1 in 4 shot. So it's not very good odds. That was one of the biggest things that I took through for sure.
I mean, there are times you play the odds. What's the location that has a 25% chance to destroy your card?
Oh, the one that Destroy loves so much. I just played it today too. I can't remember the name.
I can't remember it either, but I'll bet on that location, right? If I have maybe a blob or something big that's going to take that lane out, like there's a 75% chance that I'm going to win that lane. Like that's an okay bet. Like I'll bet on 75%. I'm not going to bet on 25% to draw the 1 card out of the 4 left.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, what's next?
Retreat when the opponent snaps on turn 5.
Yeah. I mean, that's a kind of a big one there. Unless you're going to do some hijack move that they just don't know about, they're probably snapping because they have an answer to what you're doing.
I've convinced myself of this. And actually, I heard Lambie on a recent KM Best podcast that he was doing with him that he reiterated. He said, people do not bluff in this game.
I mean, they do. I've literally watched Lambie do it. I've done it
Oh,
too.
I'm sure some of them have. Yeah,
But it's a
but
general, it's a very general statement. Like, people don't bluff. It's
yep,
going to happen. People are going to bluff. And there's sometimes you just got to respect it. But for the most part, I've realized people just don't bluff. If you have played a blob out there and on turn 5 because you're playing Arishem, then they probably have a Shang-Chi if they're snapping you, and
yep,
their own Darkhawk to play, or something, going on.
yep.
Maybe a Darkhawk Mysterio combo. Something is going on where they say like, "Oh, I see that giant play you made. Like, no big deal. I got this."
Yep. Yeah, and I've been seeing that a lot more and more, especially with Arishem and stuff like that in the meta. It's happened more and more now that I'm seeing it. Where you're right. You get one big creature out, one
Mhm.
big body out there, and then you get snapped on. They've got something to counter it.
Yeah,
Um,
and like I said, it's not a hard fast rule. There was a player that snapped me on the last turn because
yep,
I was playing Airshim. I played a blob middle all by itself, and they had a Darkhawk that they had played in one of their side lanes. So they snapped me, but I had priority. I had gotten a randomly generated Arnim Zola.
oh,
So
nice.
they snapped me, right? And I think I had snapped earlier, so they were snapping me back like, haha, I got you.
Yep.
And I didn't retreat because I had a Hajaka play. It was like, all right, you're not expecting the Arnim Zola here. That's, for one, going to completely destroy your Darkhawk, and
Yep.
two, going to make me 2 very big blobs.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's very smart. Just expect that, like you said, expect it if you get snapped on when someone sees a particular play you make, yeah, it's a good chance that they probably have something to counter it. So, yep. Do not snap on turn 5 is
Yeah,
the
so
next one.
this is just the exact opposite, right? So in my experience, if you snap on turn 5, especially the first snap, then the opponent knows like, all right, you can deal with what I have, so they're going to retreat. I would rather take an extra cube, like take 2 cubes
Yep.
instead of 1 cube from my opponent, because that's almost like queuing up an entirely next game and winning it with your opponent retreating. Or I could just guarantee that I'm going to take those 2 cubes.
Yep.
Now, with that being said, one thing I've come to notice is snapping back on turn 5 can be something you can do, right? So if your opponent snapped early, it's at 2, or it's at 2 cubes at that point. Sorry, going to 4, it's at 4 cubes. But is my math wrong? It's at 2 cubes.
Yep.
So you can snap back, especially if your opponent, if you think you're going to be a little tricksy there. But even then, like, if somebody snaps me on turn 5, most of the time I'm just running away, even if it's at 2 cubes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, it's one of those things about positioning. And if you're not in a position, or if you're not comfortable with what with the Arnim Zola, that's a fantastic draw. You're going to avoid the Shang-Chi.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%.
I'm pretty sure they did play a Shang-Chi mid as well.
Oh yeah. So it whiffed. So basically, yeah, that's right.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they did the exact play that I was expecting them to do.
Yep.
It was awesome.
Yep.
So were you able to use that at all? Were you snapping on turn 5, or were you doing those early snaps more?
I was doing the early snaps more. I did a couple turn 5 snaps when I just I was very comfortable with where I was in the game. I knew I had the Goliath. In fact, a couple of them came against Surfer. I was just wiping out Surfer decks because I gain early priority. Surfer decks are so easily recognizable as to where they're going to play their lines.
Yeah.
So like you'll have a brood lane. You'll have another lane that's kind of full. So when they're holding like the Wong lane, the one for the Wong and the Surfer at the end. And you can see them positioning it in there. So just made myself, kept priority for myself.
That kind of brings up another good point. Some cards have a higher cube equity as well, such as Legion, just because it does unexpected things. Goliath is not very in favor right now. So that's a great example of you snapping on turn 5 and your opponent be like, why are they snapping? I just had a Mystique on my Wong and I'm going to Surfer and have a billion, points across the board. There's no way to beat this. Oh, wait, I just got Goliath and I lose.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. They Wong Mystique, and I'm sitting there I'm like, oh man, I'm getting 8 cubes out of this guy, and I snap, and then he'd snap back. It was up to 8 cubes, and then the next thing I just ran over his Surfer and his and they were amazing. But you're right, it's a card that wasn't even, and this was before. A couple of days before, actually got buffed. It got the extra power. So I was playing with it even before then. And yeah, you're right. Nobody expected it, and it was an 8 cube winner for me. So, and then that happened more than once. So Yeah. Yep. For sure. Do not stick around because you snapped.
Yeah, we already talked about that earlier,
We
but
did.
it's really good. Just again, if you snap early because you have good cards, you have a good setup. Just because you snapped early, sometimes the cards just don't fall in place.
Yeah.
Maybe you're like, for instance, I've been currently playing the high Evo version of Arishem lately.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So somebody will snap me because they end up playing a Loki from their Arishem deck, and that's a good snap, right? I've Agent Coulson. I'm going to snap into your Arishem deck. Little do they know they're going to get a bunch of high Evo cards that don't do anything for them.
That do nothing. Yes.
So in that
Yeah.
case, if they get a handful of garbage, which happens several times, they get a handful of garbage, it's good to retreat. And I had some very smart opponents that retreated, noticing that they got bad cards.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's smart. Yeah. I think I ran into that a couple of times. I had a Loki Arishem deck, and I ran into that where I got the Cyclops and I got that, all those cards and with the thing and things like that. And they were do nothing cards. So yeah. Yep. Retreat if you suspect your opponent has the one card that beats you.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of straightforward, but like the one card that you can normally think of is and everybody knows it, is Shang-Chi.
Yes.
Right. So if you got a 10 power card out there that's taking over a lane for you, and they have another lane that they're winning, and maybe you're going to flip that third lane. If you suspect that they can play a Shang-Chi in their deck and that's going to win them the game, like, you need to retreat. Yep. They have a very high percentage chance to have that card that they've drawn, right?
Right.
Arishem World out of the way, where that messes up all of our math.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's only 4 cards left in their deck. That means they've drawn, 8 of their cards, or sorry, by the end of the game, 9 of their cards. Mm-hmm. So, whatever it is, you should know the meta as you're playing around. You're playing against Destroy, right? If Null's the one card that beats you, but if they don't draw Null, you're going to win. Just expect that they probably have Null.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. And it goes hand in hand with knowing, recognizing what your opponent's playing, knowing the decks and stuff like that too. So yeah.
Absolutely. And again, surprise cards like Alioth, your opponents didn't retreat because they just didn't expect it. If Alioth was a little bit more popular, like it used to be, that's a card we all had to fear. And if Alioth is the one card that's going to destroy you, then you have to retreat.
Yep. Absolutely. Be patient. Click retreat later. This is something I still have to do. I never hit that button. I never hit retreat later. And I see so many people do it when I'm watching everybody's streams play, Binks, whoever I happen to be watching, they always click that button. It's like a habit. And they just click that first before hitting retreat. And I watched and I'm like, okay, I see why you did that, because the other person retreated. I'm like,
it doesn't happen often.
Smart.
But over time it'll save you some cubes.
Yeah, no, that's smart to do.
And it's especially important. Let's go back to that last tip. And so I put these kind of in order. But the last tip for retreat, if they have the one card that beats you, well, if Shang-Chi is the one card that beats you and you click retreat later and they don't have a Shang-Chi, then hopefully they've retreated because they know that they have been beaten. And then, then you're not losing cubes there.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. This one, I still have to work on, but retreat often and revel in your 4 and 8 cube wins.
Oh man, I had a video that came about this, Joe. So I had almost a breaking point whenever I made this video. It was probably 3 months ago now, but I had gotten really upset about losing my 4 and 8 cubes, especially 8 cubes, like having something flipped on you and losing 8 cubes. It feels terrible.
Yeah.
But what I had realized was whenever I was winning 4 and 8 cube games, I did not feel if you're able to put it on a scale, like I felt -10 whenever I lost 8 cubes, but I only felt like +5 for winning 8 cubes. Yep. Shouldn't that go backwards, right? Shouldn't I feel as happy as I did, right? Equal to the amount of sorrow I felt from losing 8 cubes.
100%.
So I've really done that. Especially on my 8 cube games, sometimes I win my 4 cube, but whenever I win an 8 cube game, I stop, I look at the board and I think about how, sometimes I just feel so smart in those plays. And like, man, and I tell myself I did a great job because I want to feel good as good as I feel bad, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah. Yep. That's a great point. It's one of the things that I like to talk to the people who listen to my show about too. I went over that on this last podcast about like setting yourself goals. And maybe you may not have the ability to get to infinite for one reason or another. Maybe you just don't have the time. And that's what I said, things that you do in this game, like you were just talking about an 8-cube win. That's not an easy thing to do.
It's not.
You're playing against other good players who don't want to lose 8 cubes. So you doing that that's a good thing. Like celebrate it. It's a great thing. Like you said, take stock, take a couple minutes, look back and be like, man, I played this really, really well.
If you're not doing that, Joe, I'm going to give you homework. The next time you win 8-cube game, just stop for a second and be like, man, you did it.
Yeah.
You won an 8-cube game. And it's really changed my mindset for it. Like, I still do it because it makes me feel good.
Yep. And that's exactly what, you're playing these games to have fun. You're looking to be a little competitive. You want to win some games and just take a step back and be like, man, I did a great job doing this. Yeah.
And especially on those 8-cube games, they normally come down to somebody making a very smart play. And I've even started to do that for my opponents. Like I had an 8-cube loss that I had, and my opponent just did something off the wall, like a really good play. And I was like, man, I looked at the board. I was like, that was a good play. Like I just wasn't expecting, and it wasn't even like weird cards. They just did something a little funky or like had a really good read on what I did. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I just thought like, man, that was a good play. This opponent did a good job here.
Yeah. It's when you give them a fist bump after the game's over. I'm like, hey man.
Yeah. I remember. So one of the ones I had in the past was, I was playing against a destroy deck and I had a Shang-Chi ready to go. And then all I had to do was destroy their venom. I already had another lane. Like I don't even know why this opponent is staying in this game. My opponent played a Professor X on the lane with his venom, and then used the Deadpool that was like boosted up in the other lane. And I was like, wow, that was a smart play. Like who's expecting a Professor X in a destroy deck?
Yeah, right.
So I gave him a fist bump. Yeah, I gave him a fist bump. That was a great play.
Yeah.
What a great card.
Yeah. That's what it is. Like everybody's reaching for things in this game and you're coming up against, you're probably coming up against people who are pretty good. And so, yeah, give yourself a pat on the back. Yeah, I love that. That's a great rule. I love that. Players do not bluff on snaps. We covered this obviously before.
We talked about it.
That's number 10. Snap before you play your setup piece or tech piece.
Yeah, there you go. 11. So I'm sure you use this often. How often were you snapping after you saw what Cersei gave you?
Yes. What Cersei would be played turn 5. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So were you snapping before or after your Cersei?
Usually, I'm trying to think. After I think I was.
Okay. So like I would say to play you're expecting a good result out of your Cersei. More than likely you're going to have a good turnout there. So snapping before you play your Cersei is like a setup piece, right? Because it's going to give you more cube equity. Because I imagine that if you snapped after you played your Cersei, then there are a lot of opponents that maybe have retreated on you.
Yeah. That end up in usually like 2 cubes or something like that. Yeah, You're right. Yeah.
So just kind of playing, knowing what's in your hand and snapping beforehand. Even if you're seeing like getting those turn 3 snaps, whenever you have the sentry in your hand with the Annihilus, you're like, okay, well, I need to snap before I play the sentry out, because as soon as I do that, my opponent knows that I have a way to get rid of this -8 power.
Yep. Yeah. Great point. Lastly, play Conquest to test out your decks. Yeah, 100%. I play so much Conquest. I like 20,000 Conquest points this past month. But yeah, it's true. Like this is the place. So many people kind of knock on Conquest, and I get it. But this is the place where you should try out decks. Like so many people are going to be playing with Gwenpool today. And maybe Hydra Bob, although probably less. But so many people are going to be playing with that card today. Take it into Conquest. That's exactly what I did. I had a Surfer deck. I took it into Conquest and I played it for a little bit to just see if there were anything I had to iron out, if something wasn't working right or anything.
I think you nailed it right there. Yep. What it comes down to is a lot of times we're finding decks via the internet, right? We're finding decks on Twitter or from a friend giving it to us, seeing another player playing a deck. You're like, oh, that looks really interesting. I'm gonna try to rebuild it. There are nuances. We talked about that before whenever you're saying like when we play a deck over and over and we get better at the deck. Well, if you're trying to, climb up on ladder while you're learning those nuances of the deck, your cubes are going to suffer. So learn some of that stuff where it doesn't matter, where the rank isn't involved on Conquest.
Yep. And again, there's no pressure. If you lose, you lose. Who cares? You just go back in and do it again.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. No, that's smart. And that we don't have a practice mode. So, this is where you take your decks and, you go in, you fist bump the person, you play that one conquest game and you're out. And this way you can test your deck. So yeah, I definitely did that.
Give it a few runs, right? Make sure you know how the deck flows and what you need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Because I didn't know this deck before I decided to use this. I wasn't playing with it most of the ladder. I started playing with it around like level probably 70 or so. I think I saw it on a KM Best podcast. So I'm like, try it and see. And I knew nothing about the deck. So I went into Proving Grounds. I played it a whole bunch and I'm like, okay.
And there may have even been some cards you had never used before. Like how familiar were you with White Widow at the time?
White Widow, I used a bunch, but I will say I hadn't used Cersei that much.
There you go. Yeah.
So I was like, I've seen it played, and I saw a whole bunch of other other decks that were playing it, but yeah, I was like, okay, I wasn't, because I was still under the impression at first when I first started playing the game that it was old Annihilus. So I was still going like, I got to get Annihilus out to get that void over there, and then I think to myself, no, you actually don't, and it's probably sometimes better you don't in the first place.
Yeah.
So that definitely had to learn some cards and stuff like that. So I think, it's funny because like you were saying, we get decks from all different kind of places, right? You, as you said, on the internet, from other creators, whatever the case might be. And I'm no different than anybody else. I would do the same thing. But when you do, this tells you it's so important to know it and practice it for a while before you just take it off into ladder. Because even though, one of these creators will say, hey, this is the best deck in the game right now. It probably is. But you haven't played it. You haven't experienced it. You don't know the ins and outs of it. So you're going to maybe go in there. And I've done this before. I've taken a deck in thinking, oh, man, I know this is a good deck. I'm good to go. And yet I lose like 5, 6, 7 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I did that with, I think it was Yo Woody's deck that was playing the Darkhawk and the Mysterio and the Iron Man to counter the Arishem deck. And I've played with those cards before, so I understood the concept of deck, and I just played it on ladder quite a bit. And I try to give decks about at least 10 games before I make a decision on like if I'm going to keep playing it or not. And I don't know what it was about that deck, but I lost so much with it. Luckily, I was retreating well and not losing a bunch of cubes. But the winning pieces are Mysterio, Darkhawk, and Iron Man. And I tell you, against Arishem, I've faced Arishem probably 7 times in those 10 games, and only 1 time did I draw 2 of those pieces. So throughout all those Arishem games, like either Mysterio, Iron Man, or Darkhawk, and any of those 3 pieces, 2 of them were left, and that deck was cursed for me. I couldn't make it win. I don't know what it was, and I know it's a good deck. I've seen the results. I've seen the statistics on it. I couldn't get it to work for me, and it was crazy to think of.
Yeah, that happens to me. Happened to me several times. You'll see that, and you'll be like, "What am I?" And then all of a sudden, you'll blame yourself. You're like, "What am I doing wrong?" Like, I know this is good. Why can't? But like you were saying, sometimes it's just the luck's not on your side.
10's not even that big of a sample size. You could definitely run it more than that. But I was like, all right, I'm done going back to playing something I want to play because I'm just tired of losing.
Oh man, but yeah, that's the rules, man. And like I said, I have to thank you, for coming on my show early on and stuff like that, and talking about some of those things. Because honestly, without all that, I would have never done it. I learned a lot, like I said, from many players and people that were kind of rooting me on, and it was really cool, dude. Like I get like unbelievably overwhelmed sometimes by like the support, and people that have just been like crazy nice and been supportive and stuff like that in this community. Everybody that I've had on my show, everybody I talked to that are out there, it's tremendous. And I couldn't believe like that post that I put out there where I put Yo Adrian, I did it post that I had there, that had like thousands and thousands of looks on there. And I'm like, God, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
And so I remember I had a level up moment when I learned how to snap. correctly and snap and retreat correctly. And I feel like that's the level up moment you made this season, was just like knowing those snaps and the retreats, because it's that's a whole set. Like, being a good player and knowing how to play your cards is only so much in this game. We talked about it, you know, you're used to trying to win games, but there's a whole separate mini game in this game that is the snap mechanic, and managing your cubes through that is just so important. Question for you, Joe. How often have you made it to rank 90?
This, I want to say, somebody else asked me that same question. I don't think it was much. I want to say, I know I hit it when I hit that 99. I think I got back 2 more times. So this is only the 4th.
Okay. What about 80?
80, I've been to a bunch.
Okay. Yeah. So the first time you made it to 80, did you feel a little bit of stress?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
When's the last time you felt stress over getting to 80?
Not for a while,
right?
Because it seems to come naturally now when I play.
I'm telling you, now that you've made it to infinite, that stress is going to be coming off. Maybe it'll take a season or 2 more, but like infinite, it just isn't. It's not even a big deal for me. I'm not trying to brag about being a good player or anything, but I feel like I've learned the game good enough to where I just know that if I play like a robot and I can manage my cubes correctly, it's going to happen. So there's just really no stress there. This season was actually my fastest climb to infinite. I did it in 3 days.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
It was crazy. Because if you remember, I know this has been a long season, but this season started with Professor X Cannonball, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as I found the counter to it, and it was such a good counter because it was getting me 8 cubes over and over, 4 and 8 cubes. And I ended up playing Claw instead of Professor X.
Smart.
So I was stealing their cubes because I was clawing their Professor X lane and just pulling all their points out of that. So like, they think they've won that Professor X lane. Little do they know they're about to lose it on turn 6. So I was just able to climb so quickly.
Yeah. No, yeah. And this month you can already see, like you were talking about that Darkhawk deck against Arishem. At least the way it's looking so far early on. Now, there's going to be people that are going to put in Gwenpool into decks and stuff like that and try them out a little bit, but it still looks like Arishem is going to be out there. Yeah. So it's almost a type of meta where you're either playing Arishem or you're playing something to counter it.
I think I'm going to brew up my Clog deck again. It seems to be really good against Arishem.
I've seen TLSG playing that, and it looked nasty. And I'm like, okay.
There's a Clog deck that I was using that was all about like board space manipulation. So I was using Polaris and Snegron as well to help me clog with like debris and whatnot. So once I clog up one lane, then I'm just using Cannonball to basically do the Professor X thing.
Yep. You know what's become a big card I've seen on some of the people's streams and stuff too is Doc Ock. Doc Ock has been really good against Arishem.
That's in that deck as well.
Yeah, because he'll just come out and he'll just go. There's a mill deck that's running around now that I've seen too that has Doc Ock in it. So they're stealing cards, but they're also clogging up stuff. So yeah, that you're probably right. That because I've seen that do really, really well. Because you'll have an answer if you pull something big with the Doc Ock. You're filling their lane most of the time. If it's a big card, you'll have a Shang-Chi or something waiting for it. That you could always use to end up the game. So yeah, that might be an answer to it.
I don't know. We'll see.
Let me ask you let me get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on Arishem? Because I've seen so many different people talking about the card out there, and I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun to play. But then again, I was I made infinite, so I'm just messing around. I didn't care about my rank. I just was messing around with the card. I thought it was pretty fun to play, but now there's some people that are saying it's like, this is going to be really tough to figure this out. There's really, there's a couple counters on the Darkhawk list, but and now this is probably going to be a meta staple for a little while now, because I think it might have been a little bit better than people thought it would be.
I think Arishem is tons of fun.
Yeah, same here.
Little caveat on that is I don't like Darkhawk specifically in the Arishem deck. Yeah. I'm very happy that there is a counter in the meta so people can play a normal deck. But unfortunately, it sometimes feels like an Arishem like mirror, who drew the Darkhawk? And I don't like that feeling of like who drew the one card that wins the game. Yeah. And that could be a little rough. But that being said, like I'm not really a big fan of Loki, but I've been a fan of Loki in Arishem. And even when people played against me, I just don't feel as bad. And here's why. Whenever I'm playing a normal deck and I end up getting Loki'd, and then my opponent does what I was trying to do, but better and faster, I just feel terrible. But whenever I'm playing an Arishem deck, like I don't really know what my deck's doing other than playing Darkhawk and Blob. Like those are the two things I'm trying to do. But other than that, like I'm just playing a bunch of random cards and it feels fun and invigorating. So whenever I get Loki'd, I'm like, okay, I mean, you got some good cards, but I still got some stuff too. Yep. And I just don't really feel as behind sometimes. I don't know. I haven't felt as bad for Loki in that mirror, but it does sometimes feel like who drew the Darkhawk, and I don't necessarily like that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, I mean, it'll probably last, I would think, until, well, and when we get Cassandra's a natural counter to that deck. So it might calm down a little bit there. But yeah, I'm with you. I like the card. I think it brought like a much needed, change of pace, some fun to the game. Mm-hmm. It's like what I remember. You played Magic too. It's similar to playing a draft. It really is. Except, I mean, and now in Magic, of course, you draft your own. You draft packs or you draft stuff, so you got to kind of pick. But it's like playing a draft mode. It's what a lot of people wanted to play, and you're making the best out of your situation and your cards, and then you're making your own deck, like you were saying. If it's Loki or whether it's some card drawers like Coulson or whoever the case might be, you're making it better for yourself with getting that extra energy and stuff per turn. But I agree. I said it before last month. The ratings of the cards. I said I honestly think this is going to be the most fun card of the month.
Yeah, it was super fun. I loved it. Yeah. I would honestly be very interested in playing some mirror matches where the like 3 cards are banned, and that would be Blob, Darkhawk, and Loki, because I feel like that could be a very invigorating game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just like the randomness comes out, and then you're still gonna have good cards in the deck, right? You're gonna have Doctor Doom, you're gonna have Vision, you're gonna have all these, Legion. You're gonna have good cards, but it's not as swingy at that point.
Yeah,
like it's pretty much who drew the Blob or the Darkhawk, and did your opponent have an answer for it?
That'd be kind of cool. Maybe when you go and do your SNAPCon thing, you run a nice little tournament where those cards are banned. That'd be awesome.
I think it'd just be fun, right? Like that would really hammer home the randomness, I think, if it wasn't just about those 3 cards.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that, and I could be wrong. One thing I like to think about sometimes is folks get really up in arms about the best card. Let's say, for instance, every single card in Marvel Snap was a 1/1, it was a 1 energy, 1 power. If that was all of the cards in the entire game, and there came out a 2/2 or a 1/2, that 1 energy 2 power card would be the best card in the game.
Yeah, you're right.
There's always going to be a best card. It's just managing how much of the best, and does the best have some counters? Like that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, tournaments, we have the Snap Judgments League kicking off this week, right?
Yeah, this is the first week of Snap Judgments League. You should have your opponent already.
Yep, I do. Yep. I sent him a message on the message board to figure out what time our games are going to be played. Yeah.
Super fun and exciting. I'm excited for this season. This season we have 5 pods, and I am making a top 8 for the season championship. So that means there are 3 wild card slots open, and how you get entered to be a wild, to get that wild card slot would be winning one of our King of the Hill events. So we run multiple King of the Hill events a week, which are free side events that normally take between 2 and 3 hours to play. There's Philip Racco who hosts his over in Europe, so those are a little bit different time than mine. Myself, 2 Ties are generally doing them in the evening time for us here on the East Coast, and then Fat Nick's also running some as well. So there should be multiple kicking off, and they all award the King of the Hill role in our Discord, and then that's what I do. I literally just click the button on Discord that says who has this role, and then I choose randomly from there. I do a live stream for figuring out who's going to be the wild card winners. But 3 slots, that's a lot.
That is cool. Yeah, that's very cool, man. Man, you've been doing. I know. We all think the T in your name now is tournament. You are like the tournament guy, dude.
I'm the tournament guy now.
Yeah, it's so cool. Ever since you started doing this, and of course, poor Gunny can't even do YouTube videos anymore because he's so busy doing the other stuff now.
Sometimes I do guest videos for Glazer, but that's about it.
There you go. I actually volunteered for him. He said he needed somebody in August, and I think you were away, and he was going to be away, and I'm like, hey, I'll gladly fill in for you for a time or 2. But you got asked to do this at SNAPCon, so now you're going to be doing tournaments down at SNAPCon, right?
Yeah, I would be the head judge for SNAPCon, helping Felicity and team run the SNAPCon, and really my job is just to make sure things move efficiently. You've been a part of all the Snap Judgments League, and I hope that I'm not speaking for you incorrectly, but smooth is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
Like we've worked on our processes. Some first season was not as smooth, but things are definitely just. I'm majorly concerned about the player experience. When a player comes to an event and they have a good experience, that's going to encourage them to keep participating in these events.
Yeah, 100%.
So really, it's all about making the player experience good. Just good communication. Do we have is an easy line? Like that's some things I was talking to Felicity about. Is like, how are people going to register for events? And I'm hoping that we're going to be using like QR codes to register and things like that, as opposed to like standing in a long line and one person typing out each name. That would be less optimal. But yeah, it's all about just making a smooth, good event that people aren't confused about where or what they need to do. Those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely, and I couldn't think of a better person to go and do that. I'm sure she picked you for that reason.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, if any of you are listening out there, I will be talking to Felicity obviously tomorrow a little more about this in much more detail. But this is something that she started last year. That had a whole pretty good group of people that ended up going down to this, and it is in Florida.
Yep.
But it's not sponsored obviously by Marvel Snap or Second Dinner. This is all something that she worked on, and everybody else is contributing. So it's exciting. There's going to be a lot of cool content creators you could see up on the screen. Gunny, of course, is going to be there. Felicity herself, It's Guest Gaming, Super Tech God, Doc D. Many of these people have been on my show. Gregor have all been on my show before. So if you want to go to a tournament, meet some of your favorite creators, have a good time, play some Snap and stuff like that, and you're in this area or could be, it's definitely a cool thing to go check out. So
yeah, super excited about this event. It's going to be a full-on type festival environment. So we have the main event, which is going to be a 32-player single elimination on day 2. But nice. How you're going to get into that single-player event is winning smaller events on day 1. So there's going to be a bunch of 8-person pods, single elimination. The winner gets a seat. We're going to have some other ones. We might have some drafts going on. Same thing. Winner gets a seat. My new all-in format. Did we talk about that before, Joe?
I don't think so.
All right. So my new all-in format will be, winner of that gets a seat. It's going to be a good time. And then the top 32 will be what's live streamed, and like the person is going to take home the championship of SNAPCon. And there's again so many cool people going to be there. It's just going to be so much fun.
Yeah. Take it from me, and Gunny would probably know this too, being both Magic players. This is where you see so much fun going on. I was to some big tournaments out of state where I live. I went to New Jersey to a big one for Magic, and this is where you're mingling, you meet people, you get to talk, and it's so cool that we can do this today with a digital game. Because you figure a digital game, there's no way you're going to be able to get something like this together or get something going like this, and it does happen. And so this is it's a great opportunity for you. Like I said, if you live in that area and you want to just get to a something like that where there's a big gathering of people that play the game, people that maybe you've only ever seen on a TV screen or whatever the case might be. Yeah, I love this, man. This is this is what brings back memories for me from Magic and how I used to have so much fun doing that. So
for sure, it's going to be such a good time.
Yep, no doubt. All right, I'll talk to you about a couple other things here. So we have, I think we have another slide here for SNAPCon 2. Yes, right there, August 16th and 17th, 2024. And you see, speaking of a QR code, there is one right there that you can scan for tickets. That's where it is, the West Shore Grand. And there's the little team photo. I can see Binks right in the middle.
From last year.
Yeah.
So you're going to get yourself in that team photo next year.
That'd be awesome, man. I would absolutely love to. I would have an absolute blast. So no doubt. All right, man. We are into July. We are officially into Deadpool Wolverine marketing season because, of course, the movie's coming out. And so there's all this stuff going on with Marvel Snap. So I wanted to talk to you about that. What card of this month is one of the cards? Like, Arishem was my big one last month. But is there one you have picked out that you're really, really looking forward to playing this month?
I don't know. Not really.
Okay.
Nothing off the top of my head that I'm super interested in.
Okay.
I'll tell you right now, my card acquisition has been atrocious lately.
Oh, really?
I've had to pick and choose what cards I'm getting because the last 3 times I have opened for a card has taken me 4 keys.
Oh, me too.
And out of those 4 keys,
like,
I have not even gotten a new card. I'll get the 1,000 tokens. So it's just like, it's such a not very excited about that.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, I hear you. I got lucky today because I wanted the Galactus variant. I mean, that was a no-brainer. But it was like I lucked out and I got Bob and I got Galactus in two keys.
Nice.
So I'm like, all right, I actually. But I hear you. The last month, the month before that, I had to use all 4 every single time.
I'm on 3 months in a row, which is just such a drain on your acquisition.
Yeah, it really is.
To get some of the other cards, like I think I had to spend tokens on. I don't remember what I spent tokens on, but I spent tokens on a card just because I needed it. Like, so hard.
Yep. Of the little events, right? So Twitch drops started today. That they're giving a Wolverine variant for that.
Yeah, so you can get your album.
Yeah, the new album came out today, which I literally had all, but I think I need 1. So when I get my Twitch drop, I'll have the album complete.
There you go.
I had so many Wolverine cards already. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Like they're giving you the new I forget what they're called. The little things that when you click on somebody's card, you can give the little happy face. That's what they're giving you for it. So you get a Wolverine one when you finish the album. So it's kind of neat. Plus you got a new card, which the card is amazing. It's the comic book cover of Days of Future Past, and Wolverine with a leather jacket
really
kind of popping out.
I haven't really wanted many of those, but that one is hot.
Yeah, it really is. It's a really, really cool card. But yeah, I mean, I want to ask you about a couple things here. So obviously, I'll start out with alliances. I am really, really looking forward to alliances, and for the reasons I mentioned for SNAPCON. The chat feature in there is awesome. I think it's a long time overdue. You join one of these things, and now you can have discussions in there. You can talk to people in there. You can get deck ideas. People can share decks in there. I think it's awesome. It's set up very similar, it looks like, to Discord. It looks very similar to how Discord is set up. So I think this is neat. My hope for this is I've been guild masters before. I played a lot of World of Warcraft, so I've been in charge of guilds before. And I know this is going to work pretty similarly. You go and complete missions and do all that kind of stuff together. But I like the social aspect of it. The only thing that worries me with this is I hope you're not limited to 1 to join, or that you're limited to a certain smaller amount of people. Because especially for people that are like, I don't even know how the bigger creators would do it. Because they would have so many people that would want to join, like an Alex Kocher or a Cozy.
Yeah,
they'd have a gazillion people that would want to join.
I think what Glazer was talking about is he wants to create, if it is limited to people, then he's just going to have, extra people in his community, like host another alliance.
Oh, nice.
So it'd be like the Judgments Alliance or whatever, 1, Judgments Alliance 2, whatever, and just have some of us maybe.
That's cool.
Being in charge of the extra ones.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited about this. And then, of course, the Deadpool's Diner. This was so controversial because it never got explained really well. And it kind of
can we pause there for a second?
Sure.
So I think a lot of players really get maybe upset that things aren't explained very well. And I get that they should have come out and told you we were getting a free card. Is that the main piece?
For sure. That should have been the first thing they led with. It's like, yeah, man.
So I'm actually kind of a big fan of not getting a bunch of information. Like I think the big card, like they should have just told us, hey, this is a way to earn a free card. Boom. Easy day. Other than that, I don't really care that I didn't know more about this. Like the day it comes out, it would be so cool if nobody knew anything. Remember, we've talked about this before, Joe, but do you remember whenever a new Magic set would come out and there was no spoilers for it and you were finding out the new cards the day you opened the pack? Like that is super exciting. Now when you go to a Magic the Gathering event, you have a list of cards of which ones you need to draft, to make the most money or to make the best decks. Like learning on the fly and just there's a bit of excitement. And I hope people can revel in the excitement some when they just don't get a bunch of information ahead of time.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I mean, we never had, like, even back in the day when I was playing, there wasn't even you never got internet reports about what cards were going to be. Nowadays, you get, they'll show you almost every card down to the letter, the color, and everything of what it is. We never got that. So you're just opening packs and looking at the cards and thinking, how can I make this work? Yeah, you're 100% right. Sometimes,
we're just so spoiled. We're so spoiled because we're used to having all the information ahead of time.
Yeah, we are. And sometimes it's TMI. sometimes you get too much information, and then it's like then people are getting upset for nothing. I think that happened here too, because when you look at it, I have it pulled up here. So this was so hard to read because of where the lines were. People were thinking she was 50 million. The line was up over top, but the line divvied it across a graph on the other side.
Yep.
So she wasn't 50 million, she's 15. And then,
Yep.
of course, this one is the big one for the 500 is the big variant. But I think so many people got upset and got mad because they didn't understood how it worked. And a lot of people had thought, oh, my God, this Cassandra Nova card is going to be the base card. It's going to be so hard to get. Look, it's 15 million bubs. We don't know anything about how this even plays. That might be one of the easier levels to gain. And
I'm just looking at this graph right now. If 500 million is how you get the top one, sure, that might only be 10% of players that get it, but that means that 15 has to be pretty achievable.
I would think so too. If it goes all the way up to 500, and then it's 100%. Somebody asked me what I put this up, and somebody asked me, well, what do we do with the grilled cheese? And I'm like, well, you eat it. But other than that, I said, no, this is a food level. They're just food levels that it climbs up.
Who knows? I really haven't even looked too much into Deadpool's Diner. I don't know much about it because I'm ready to play for it whenever it comes out. I'm like, let's figure this thing out.
Yeah, me too.
I don't need an optimized way to do bubs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll watch a video that one of the creators comes out day of, but I'm not going to learn all that stuff beforehand. Like, let me just putz around with it some.
Yeah, 100%. There's 2 different borders, 2 new borders, obviously, that are in here too that people can get. So, yeah, look, like I said, and like you mentioned too, they should have just said right off the bat that, hey, we're giving you a free card. That they could have been done. They wouldn't have even had to say anything else. You're getting a free card. We only ever got one once before, and it was Kitty Pride, and that was because Kitty was so bad and errored out that we needed to get a card. So, yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally agree. There's going to be a Jeff week. And I checked that this coincides with Shark Week, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing, and of course with all different Jeff variants and stuff like that.
And now I know they're giving us a free Cassandra Nova, but man. Maybe it's next year. Next year, Jeff Week should just be everybody gets a Jeff. How cool would that be? I mean, the card's been out for so long already. Everybody needs it. It's not like I mean, you need it, and it kind of feels so bad to buy. I remember when I bought Jeff, I was like, am I really paying 6,000 tokens for a 2/3?
Yep.
It's not exciting. It's not flashy. Like everybody just needs to have Jeff.
Yep, 100%. I'm also excited about, and I don't know if you've seen these yet. I imagine you have, but the upcoming Spider-Man season.
Oh yeah.
So what about now? What do you think? Right. I want your opinion because you're a fellow Magic player. What do you think Activate is going to be? Do you think it's going to be similar to like tapping a Magic card, where you like tap it and then it does whatever it does, and you can only do it once. It's not like you could reverse it and do it again. But yeah, how do you think Activate is going to play out? Do you think it's going to make a big difference in the game?
I think it almost seems like a delayed on reveal. Yeah. Right, some condition needs to be met. Maybe you click the card or you do something, but then it activates and it does its on reveal. Like imagine, I think people have already talked about this, but imagine Zabu having the activate ability. How cool would that be to play a Zabu on turn 2, knowing that your turn 5 you want to activate that ability?
Yep.
Or maybe you have a turn 3, 4 drop that you want to play and you activate the ability immediately. Like that just seems like a really neat way to do an on reveal. That doesn't really it's still an on reveal, but it's just happening when you want it to happen.
That's a great thought. They did say they were going to rework Zabu, so maybe they're going to wait and rework it with an activate in it. I think looking at those cards and obviously the Spider-Man series, and then it was funny to me because the next month is of course October. That's we've seen data mines for a Venom and Carnage month. Mm-hmm. What I think may happen here is I think they're going to start incorporating some of these activate cards into every single possible deck type. You're getting move ones, obviously, from the Spider-Man one. I have a funny feeling you're going to get destroy ones from the Carnage and Venom season.
Yeah, or maybe token generation ones, all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
I buffing card ones. Imagine like a Forge with an activate or something.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I think it's going to – so many people are asking for changes. We want to see changes. We're bored. We want to see different things. I think Activate might be what does it because you're now going to have to learn a whole new mechanic. You're gonna have to be aware of it. And if you're not aware of what's going on the board, that they can just like clone one of the
Spider-Man,
one of those Spider-Man at whatever time they want to, beyond the turn that they play it. You're gonna have to take that into account now when you're looking at your board.
I've already thought about that Spider-Man with a just buffing it up, doing all kinds of stuff to it, and then activating it to copy itself. That seems like a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, I really think it's going to put a kickstart into the game a little bit. I do. I think more people are going to destroy. I think kind of needs a little bit of a not that the deck is bad, but I think it just needs some flavor, some different cards.
I think what would be fun with Destroy is exactly what you just said. Is like, could we have some different flavors of Destroy? Can Null stop being the best thing that you're doing, or buffing Deadpool stop being the best thing that we're doing? That would be interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I said so. Maybe with these symbiotes coming in, that all I know is Flash Thompson's Venom is coming in, which is amazing. I love that in the comics. At one point, Flash Thompson gets possessed by the symbiote. He's a good one though, but he's going to be in there and stuff like that too. That's right in time for Halloween, so I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But no, I agree. I think that it's going to give a little kickstart to this. It's going to make even your top players, that are constantly top 10 or whatever on Infinite Ladder, they're going to kind of have to learn a little bit of a different way to play, just like everyone else is. So I like it. I think it's really good that they're introducing that to the game. What do you want to see coming up? Like, I know that they mentioned a draft mode, and they talked about it. Obviously, we don't know if we'll get it or not because it's on that way out their ladder. But what are some things that you want to see in this game? You've played it long enough now. You're doing these tournaments and stuff like that. You're always on the Discord talking to people. So what are some of the things that you hear from people or things that you might want to see?
Man, what I really want to see is I want agency for new players to start playing a deck. I know you talked about this on your last podcast.
Yes.
But having the little deck package where it was it was only series 3 cards, but it was like Venom and
Shuri.
That was like a different package though, right? So there was there was a Destroy package that had like Venom, something else, and something else. It wasn't even any of the series 4 or 5 cards. But if you're new, like I have my brother-in-law just started playing. It's very difficult to just make even a cohesive deck. So if you could just spend a few bucks to like start playing something that makes sense, like that's so cool and give you agency. Now I'd like to see that package include maybe a Null or something out of the series 4 and 5 that because that those series 4 and 5s are just going to keep on building. They're not going to keep going down. Their series drops aren't that good. So that's just a very interesting start to it. I think we'll see more of that because it's ridiculous. It took me 4 months and $400 to get through Series 3.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? That anybody who's new to the game, like that's just such a hard pill to swallow.
It is.
And I've seen it over and over. People get, halfway through Series 3, and that's the real drag point. You're like, man, every single deck that I look at, I'm missing a card or two that is fairly key. And it's a Series 3 card, but I have no agency over what I can get. It may even be really cool if the game was just a little bit more responsive to what cards you were picking as your free Series 3 card. Like maybe the game just recognizes that I just picked a Venom as my Series 3 card. So one of the next Series 3 cards that I unlock is another Destroy card. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you unlock Patriot and it unlocks Dr. Doom for you instead of, Howard the Duck or something. That would just be really neat.
That'd be kind of cool. It's almost like as if you could make like a path, like on almost like a chart where you're going up that ladder, but then you can veer off to like a Destroy side and you can collect along that path line. I think that wouldn't be that hard for them to do. Actually,
maybe and path's a great example, right? Maybe at a certain point you get there and you just choose your path. Like, hey, you want to go this way or that way, and you're still unlocking the cards. And after you finish your Destroy path, then you go over to the Shuri path, then you go over to the Patriot path, whatever it is, and it would just give people more agency so they can start playing the game effectively.
Yeah,
and I think that's what it really comes down to is playing the game effectively and feeling like you can actually do something without having to replace every single card. Because it can be tedious. I remember whenever I started, like the first time I got to Infinite, I think it was with a Shuri deck, and I had to replace Typhoid Mary with something else. I don't even remember what it was, but I didn't unlock Typhoid Mary till one of like the last caches that I opened for Series 3 to make the legit, Shuri deck.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about returning players? Like people that they leave for a little bit, they come back to the game. What would be something that you might do to kind of help them out a little bit? Since obviously, I've been watching TLSG when he came back, and the pain points were there. He was saying there's so many cards now that he just doesn't have, and probably won't see for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months even in a spotlight cache again, because he just couldn't get him. So any ideas like on what you might do, like for people who for whatever reason they have to leave the game for a little bit, they leave for a couple months, 3 months, whatever the case might be, and then all of a sudden they come back to the game and they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, I'm not really too certain. I think card acquisition is just the big piece there. I really think it's kind of bogus that the random card you're getting can be 1,000 tokens. That seems outrageous to me on every aspect. Why can't it be a card that you don't have? Right? Like you're going to get a random card anyways. What if it's just a card that you don't have? Like you can't choose. There's 3 cards available that you see. Those are the options I could get. And for me, all of those are repeats right now. So that means there's 3 options of cards that I'm very, very unlikely, because I don't have that many cards I'm missing, to get my random card being something I need. So that means there's 3 options whenever I open, and it takes me 4 keys to get the 1 card I want, that I'm not getting anything that I really need. Sure, I'm getting variants. I say nobody's opening for variants. If you're token limited like I am, and you're key limited like I am, you're not opening for variants. I can tell you that right now. I'm opening for the new card.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
So I don't know, returning players maybe. And then, so here's the tough point, right? So what is a returning player? TLSG took 9 months off. That's obviously a returning player.
That's a lot, yeah.
If I stop playing for a month, am I a returning player? If I stop playing for 2 months, am I a returning player? I don't know, but I think just an option to help you, just get the cards you're missing faster. Or just again, have some agency over it. The hill they've decided to die on is, what if you could play a game where everybody's playing a different deck? Nobody's playing a different deck. Nobody's playing a different deck in this game. Everybody looks at the meta and says, I'm playing that deck.
Great point.
The only people who are playing a different deck is people who don't have the cards to play that deck.
That's true. That's true, especially now. I mean, my God, Arishem ran wild. What was it, 70-some% of the meta, which is insane. And that's not even, you're looking at a card where people would have had to open caches for or spend tokens for. It's not like they're getting that any other way. And the fact that was at 70% just kind of shows you.
And you were talking to Kieran Nimbus, and he doesn't have Blob. That's a very key card.
Huge
for
card.
the Arishem deck, right?
Yeah.
So he was taking a break during that time. It was one of the cards he didn't collect. It hasn't been in Spotlight, so he had to buy it with tokens. He's token limited. So if he wants to play the Arishem deck effectively, he's just limited, right? He's hoping to, I think he has Loki, so hopefully he gets to play Loki and steal your opponent's Blob.
Yep. I think I told him, actually, I think Blob is in a Spotlight cache this month, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's a week or 2 coming. So I told him, I said, well, there you go. If you get but again, you're right. And I think this all boils down to, and they did say as part of that roadmap thingy that they are working on the cache system. I really hope that they do.
Now, and I don't want to push it. So here's one of the things I noticed as my brother-in-law, he literally was here this past weekend, and he saw what I was doing. I think I was working on the game. Somebody's asked me what I was doing, and told him it was Marvel and it's a cool game. So he started playing it, and I was helping him, put his first deck together. And the first, man, they are good at what they do. Second Dinner is, when you start playing the game, every single game you play, you're getting something. A button lights up, says, all right, you've unlocked a new card. You've gotten tokens.
Oh, yeah. The beginning is great.
Oh, man. It's just a waterfall of things you're getting. Yep. And then whenever you start opening with keys, right? That's a waterfall. Every single card, your entire week, the random card, it's all going to be new. Like, you open 4 times, you're getting 4 new cards. That is amazing.
Yeah, you're right.
But if you're not to that point, it just feels bad for folks like me. I'm token and key limited, trying to get the new card, and I'm not getting new things. Like that high really comes down so quickly once you become invested. So I don't know, some kind of way to fix that just doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where that Series 3 grind comes in, is like you've stopped getting new things as frequently. You're now starting to become more invested. You're playing against players who are a little bit better. You're seeing the decks that they're playing. You want to play them, but you can't. Like that's when the real grind happens. You're like, God, I just want to get through this. It's like a month. I would say for most players, it's about 2 a month and a half to 2 months of just like feeling real bad about the game.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I remember the new player experience. I remember how much fun it was. Like, I would be over at, I think it was Snap Zone at the time. I can't remember, who used to give you a card checklist.
Yep.
And I can remember going through and checking on, oh, I got this one. Oh, I got this one. What else is there to get? And I'm looking on the list and I'm like, okay, I need this one. I need this one. Yeah, you're right. It's a really fun experience when you start. But then once it gets to, like you said, you get to that Series 3 grind, and it's really, really tough. Because then, like you said, you're then getting parts of the ladder where you're climbing up a little bit higher. Now you're starting to play against people that have pretty good decks, and if you're missing too many pieces, you're just not going to be able to compete. So yeah, 100%, I agree.
Yeah, I'd say some of the big pieces that I'm missing that I still have yet to acquire would be like I still don't have Proxima Midnight. Whenever the discard deck was really good, I didn't end up buying into that discard deck, which is okay. It's not so great now, but still, if any discard deck comes up, like Proxima's in there, and I really can't play it.
Yep.
What's the other one? Not is it Namora? Is that the one that gives +5 to the?
Yeah, Namora is the one that hits on reveal to +5 as long as they're in the single lane.
So I don't have Namora. Like that was a card that was doing well for a little while. I just got Cersei because I think Cersei's actually going to be good long term. I think she's got a cannonball effect, but I had to buy it with tokens, right? So there are good cards every once in a while. I see a deck I want to play, and I can't.
Yeah, and it's a feels bad. And tokens are getting scarce, man. They used to give you more. I've seen things that, when you're opening up those caches now. At one point they're giving you 200 gold. One point now that went down to 100. Now they're down to 50. You open one of those caches up, it's 50 gold now you're getting. So they're starting to limit the resources as far as what you can get. And tokens are the same way. They're very valuable now. And you have to make that choice now. Whereas, you were able to get the cards in a season. Now they're coming out with more. And now you can't always, you have to look at the data mines and be like, okay.
Yeah. You have to kind of decide, like, is that a style I like? For instance, definitely not getting Hydra Bob.
No, I don't honestly know where he's going to be good at, if anywhere at all, to be completely honest.
Decent. He might be pretty decent in Zoo. It's a 1/4, right?
Well, Zoo or Kingpin, if somebody, not Kingpin, but Craven. If somebody plays Craven, I could see that. Or like a mini move deck, like kind of a Silky Smooth type with Craven in there, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, but even then, like Fastos wasn't a card I picked up. It seems, very decent. I think Fastos has shined in some of the Arishem decks, but I've played plenty of Fastoses that have been provided to me by Fastos, which is by Arishem, which is pretty cool. But it was a card I skipped on because I wasn't playing Surf. I've played some Surfer, but I'm not a Surfer player, right?
Yeah, I'm not either, really. Yeah, same thing. But no, 100%. It's you look at those and you got to think to yourself, all right, what do I really want, and what can I afford to get? And that's what it comes down to. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's this leads back to like when they first started the game, right? And they talked about how they want everybody with unique collections. They use that word, unique collections.
But nobody's playing with a unique collection.
They're not. They're absolutely not
by choice, at least.
No. They're absolutely not. I think they need to give that up. I get it. I understand why they tried it, but I'm like, just let it go. It's not working out anyway. It's not turned out that way. People want unique collections. Grab variants. You can have unique collections. You'll have people with different cards anyway that you're not going to see because they're variants that you don't have.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree.
Back to your original question. I have some oddball things I would really like to see fixed in the game.
Okay.
One, and I've heard this before, but I think Proving Grounds, the first one, should just be a one and done.
Yes, for sure.
One game and it's over. And my biggest problem isn't playing against normal players. I could care less. If I have a really good game going, like I don't care where I'm playing that good game, but those bots kill me. The retreat on turn 3 bots. Oh my God. So I think they only get token or only get boosters or whatever if they go to turn 3. That's why it lasts that long. So if I see an Electra turn 1, I immediately retreat and concede. They are not getting their boosters off me, and it's just so frustrating. I spend it's not a ton of time, but I spend 30 seconds, a minute waiting on a game for it to be a bot that just wants to retreat on me over and over. Like I spend Proving Grounds trying to test decks. I'm not testing a deck by drawing hands over and over and winning like for 1 cube retreats. That's so annoying. Like I want to get rid of that. That needs to not exist. However they can manage that, I don't know, but that just needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
2, here's a really weird one. why do I have to go through 3 different screens to collect my silver ticket? My mobile it's already slow enough as is, but that's
Oh,
like
me too.
it's like 30 seconds of me like, you've won in the proving grounds. Great. Go to the next screen. Congratulations for here's your ticket for winning proving grounds. Next screen, claim ticket for winning
God,
proving
it's
grounds. Like, oh
horrible.
my God. Why? Why can't I
Yeah.
just win proving grounds and hey brother, here's your ticket. I don't
Hey,
need to
Brett.
click a button that says that if you want to do that for infinite, like congratulations, claim, like
Oh yeah,
that's
sure.
cool, man. But I don't want to spend an extra. It's just time, right? I'm arguing about 30 seconds a minute here, but God, it feels so bad.
It is. It's annoying. No, you're right. It's annoying. There's no reason to have all
3
those extra
screens to get
screens.
a silver ticket.
Yeah. And
And
going back to your point
they
about the bots, dude. If I see one more bot playing with Warpath, they love Warpath now. They love Warpath. They love Bucky Barnes, which they will never use because they don't have any other cards to kill it. But they're so easy to spot, and it's like, yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you.
now leave the bots on ladder. I like farming those bots.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, they're easy. The minute I see Warpath come down, I'm like, yep, I'm snapping.
Man, it makes me like sometimes I will wait for a while because I have poor connection in places for a game of Conquest, and then I end up going against this bot that keeps wanting to retreat. Sure, I could go the whole distance and get my silver ticket, but that's not why I'm there. I'm not there to get a silver ticket.
Yep.
I'm there to play games of Marvel Snap.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. I like to call those things quality of life, but yeah, I agree. It does need. There are things in the game that really need, attention like that. Conquest is definitely one of them. I know there are a lot of people that just don't like it at all. They don't touch it until they do their infinite runs and try to get their borders, and that's really all it is. I think they need to change some things. Give some people a little more of an incentive. Make their rewards a little better. I get the card and everything is cool. But I don't know, make the reward a little bit better for people to do it. And like you said, there's no need. I don't even know if there's a need for so much in silver, like, or not silver, but gold rather. Like, I don't even know if you need to make it that much in order to get the infinite ticket. I don't know. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't really care about the rest. I think
Yeah.
2 games for silver to get a gold and 3 games for gold to get infinite. Like I have yet to have a problem with that. Really, it's really just proving grounds needs to be one and done, and the bots need to go away. Like that's just a quality of life. Like I literally I got my first infinite frame, like the border. I'm so happy about it because it's the blank face one with no image. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I saw you posted that.
That's the one I always use, and I have absolute garbage as my little tag underneath it. And I've wanted that infinite border for so long. Fantastic. I've never really paid attention, but Arishem got me there.
Nice.
And I'm so excited about that. But I literally just play Conquest normally to test out decks.
Yep.
So I just want that experience to be a little bit better.
Yep. Agreed.
Other than that, I think Deadpool's Diner will be a good shakeup. Like, I want to see some more fun things coming up.
Same here.
Like the Valentine's Day stuff, like that.
Yeah, like the X-Men Avengers things. Yeah, I love them. Yeah, I thought they were awesome. Yeah.
And I know some people don't, right? If you're not a fan of hot locations and your game changing and getting messed with, then you might not be a fan of that. But I don't know. It's kind of cool to me. Just exploring in that realm seems very neat.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Hot locations, I'm not a huge fan of. I made that clear many, many times. I just think hot locations are weird. I honestly think that they should stay away from them on the first and last weeks of the month. That's the only thing I don't like about them. Okay. Because this way you're not messing people up if they're trying to get the infinite in that first week, and you're also not messing people up if they're trying to catch up and get there the last week.
Yeah.
Even though it's only 24 hours, it's still a day where a lot of people just won't play, or they're going to play in Conquest because they don't want that location in particular, or they don't want to have to make a deck around that location in particular. So
I'm weird. I'm weird. I don't really mind the hot locations.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I absolutely hate them. If they went away, I would not be disappointed in the least.
Yeah.
So you reading any comics? Have you read any good comics? Are you still reading Spider-Man?
I will admit, Joe, I kind of hopped off the comic book train.
I gotcha. It's hard.
Yeah, I read novels, and it's not like saying novels are better or anything, but I read a few of those. I read a few of the Spider-Man comics. They were very good. I just think they were kind of short.
Yeah. Oh, right? Well, they definitely are. You're only getting maybe 20 pages or so out of a book. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yep, and it was just I was playing. I got the Comological whatever. What is it through Amazon?
Comixology.
Comixology. So I got that, and I read some comics. I did my homework like you had asked me to, and I read some of the X-Men Wars. Was it?
Oh man,
it was a group of them though, from like 140 to something.
Okay.
But I read, some of the, I did quite a bit of reading on there, and I just found, for me, it wasn't worth the $5 a month. I wasn't getting my fill of it, but I did enjoy it. It was fun.
If you get back to it, you should go into graphic novels. Look for the graphic novels.
Yeah, that seems cool. Graphic novels would be fun.
Yeah, because you can go to you can go to any bookstore now. You can go to a Barnes and Noble. They have a whole section of them. You literally go right in, and there's sections of them. Like that's where I go to now.
So here's one thing that I just thought of right as soon as you said graphic novels. My kids are aging. My daughter's 6. My son's 2.5, right? So he'll be learning to read soon. But as my daughter gets older, like that seems like a really fun thing to do together. Like go pick out a graphic novel together, especially whenever, I know not all comics are for children, or at least like very young children, but maybe picking out some of the fun comics that are more child friendly and kind of working, and then reading them with her, because we read to my daughter every single night. We read together.
That's awesome.
So and my son, like one of us will read to my daughter and one will read to the son. So that's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that seems like a great way to introduce, because again, it'd just be easier to digest with all the pictures. She'd be more into it.
Yeah, they're cool to read. Like I'll still go back. I have a bunch of them, and I still go back and read like Infinity War. Let's say I'll go back to it. I went in and I started leafing through it, and I'm like, I totally forgot. Like you could see, like it's cool because you could see the differences between the movie and the book. Like the person who fell through the window in Doctor Strange's Sanctum in the book is Silver Surfer. It wasn't Hulk. It was Silver Surfer. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's right. I forgot about this. They changed stuff up. But yeah, it's a way that they started making them. They've been around, but they started getting more prevalent in the 80s and 90s, figuring that people are going to have a tough time just doing one book at a time. Yeah. And you're going to miss issues and stuff like that. So why not just go out and print like a compendium of
and it seems very digestible too, right? Like it's for someone like me who has a vast catalog, unless I'm asking you what I should read, I can go pick up a book and it says like, this is a start to finish story.
Yep.
And that seems pretty cool.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's I was doing my show yesterday, the audio one, and I knew nothing about Gwenpool. Nothing, zero. I knew nothing about her. I thought she was related to Deadpool. She has no relation to him whatsoever.
But they both say pool.
Yep. Her name originally was Poole. Okay. And that's where they got it. But the outfit came because she's such a big fangirl of superheroes in her own universe. But I had no idea who she was. So I had to go back and I had to look up her comics, and I started reading them, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like she is aware of the fact that she's in a comic book. So it's the whole fourth wall thing. Okay. But she ends up going to the comic book universes anyway. Okay. So she's aware that she's a comic book character, but she's in something else. She gets pulled over here, and she, for what she looks like, is completely brutal. Okay. Like 2 swords, and she's like chopping people up and stuff like that. It was great, because I'm like, when I read the description, when I was talking about the character and I had to look up the information for her, I'm like, I got to go back and read some of this, because this sounds completely bonkers. And I did. I read the first issue she was in was with Howard the Duck. So I went back and I read the Howard book. And then she was in a Christmas special, and I'm like, I absolutely love this. So that's what I told everybody. I'm like, see, there's a person like me who has read a lot, but yet there's characters I know nothing, absolutely nothing about. And now I'm grateful that she's in Snap, because otherwise I wouldn't have looked those up.
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't have looked those books up. So, oh man, it's been awesome. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you have the kids and stuff like that. So, but man, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on before, obviously, and talking to me about how to get a little better at this game, and of course being supportive and stuff like that. It meant a lot. It really did. Coming from yourself and everybody else out there who was so amazing to me, just for doing something silly that I'm sure a lot of other people have done many, many, many times over. I really, really appreciate it, man. And Yeah, thank that. I appreciate you coming on again, man. You are obviously welcome back anytime that you want. But let people know obviously where they can find you. I know right now it's on Snap Judgment's Discord.
That's really
it's in Snap Judgment's Discord. You want to find Gunny? That's where he's going to be.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on there, just running the tournaments. I guess if you don't mind, I'll talk about my all-in tournament because I think I want to get you in on this. Yeah. So it completely breaks Marvel Snap, which is okay. But I got the idea from Disney Lorcana. They do a weird 2-game format. So instead of best of 3, which is pretty much how everything is played, it's just 2 games. You win 1 point for winning a game. So if you win 2 games, that's 2 points, and then you get an extra point if you won both games. So it was in an effort to make the whoever goes first in Lorcana not matter as much. But really what it does is it also speeds up tournaments. So I've created this all-in format, which the snaps don't matter. So this is why I think you would love it, Joe, is you only play 1 game in friendly conquest modes, like you and I would play together, and we're going to play to turn 6. So why I love it is, let me ask you, what are your favorite wins? Like, what wins do you really remember?
9 times out of 10, I would probably say it's going to be a turn 6 win.
Right? It's a turn, and not only a turn 6 win whenever you've beaten the pants off your opponent, but it's that turn 6 win where you played to your really weird out, all right, if this happens this way and this thing lines up and it works perfectly and I won, oh my God, I did.
You're actually shocked that you won, right? Sometimes. Yeah.
So that's what all in does, is you're going to play to turn 6, play to your outs, whatever they are. If your opponent doesn't have the Shang-Chi, you win here, you're not retreating. So if they don't have the Shang-Chi, you win the game. That's so awesome. It's just really cool. But you're only going to play, you play 1 game, then you log out. You can play or you don't log out, but you get out of that game. You can play a completely different deck if you want to for the next game. And then you just play 2 games and that's it. And the cool thing about that is all of my King of the Hills so far before this were single elimination tournaments.
Yep.
I can run a 16-player 4-round Swiss tournament with a top 4 cut in under 2 hours.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's just so the rounds are 10 or 15 minutes long. It's so crazy. And everybody, RNG, so heavy. I don't know how competitive you could consider this because the RNG factor is so much. But I tell you what, it's so much fun. I don't think I've had a single player that's not liked doing it, because you're literally what I do. I don't know how long your laundry list of decks is in client. But I just go from deck to deck to deck.
I have a full. Most of the time I have full. I usually have 1 or 2 spots open.
I don't think about what deck I'm playing or what my opponent might be playing. I'm all right, next deck, click it. And it's so much fun. And I think one of the things that the players love about it was with how random it is, and you can lose a game, but it just doesn't feel bad. You're not stuck in a conquest game where you have a deck that's not favored to win and you're just trying to grind out games against them. Just choose a new deck. Go to the next round. And then if you lost that round, whatever, you got a next round happening in 5 more minutes. So it's lots of fun. We love that.
Sounds like it.
I need to get one scheduled during a time where you're free, because I think you would really enjoy it.
Yeah, that would be a blast. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, no doubt. I love it, man. You're always trying to come up with different ways to make the game fun, which is what it's all about. That's awesome. And of course, with all the things that you're doing, again, guys, make sure you go, join their Discord, Snap Judgments, obviously, and you will see Gunny T in their chat. That's where usually I'll go to find him if I need to say something to him, because he's always in there doing something. And you heard it, and he wants to do some new tournaments and get things going. And that's how these games are fun, right? You don't have the capability necessarily of being next to someone or playing across the table from them, but man, I got to say, what you've done, over the past 5, 6, 7 months that you've been doing this is amazing. And
54 tournaments.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy. But you know what? It's making it fun for people. I love the Snap Judgments League. I have said this countless times. I've met people there that I've talked to after the games for half an hour. Some of them have come on my show. That's tremendous. I think that's amazing. You're meeting new people. You're playing a game against them, but you're talking to them then a little bit afterwards. And it all would have been possible if you weren't doing it. So
Discord's been great. The Patreon is what gives you access to the tournament. If I could find a way to make it free, I would. But I'll tell you guys that the $1 a month.
Oh, that's nothing.
The $1 a month is what basically makes the tournaments possible without
Yeah.
us paying, without me paying my own money to let people play Marvel Snap. Which I'm sorry, guys, I'm not going to pay you to play Marvel Snap. I did that actually for a little while with the first King of the Hills. I was paying out the gold pass, and that got expensive really quick, so I had to stop doing that.
$1 a month gets you nothing, literally nothing outside of what Gunny's doing here. So I mean, you're not going to miss $1. So like you can't even buy a soda anymore for $1. So it's like, yeah, just do it. I mean, you'll hear from me, of course, Gunny. Anybody else that's done it, that's been in these tournaments has a blast doing it. So hey, if you love the game, you want to compete a little bit.
Yeah, if you just want to shake it up a little bit, if you just want something a little different.
Yep.
Try it out. Try the King of the Hills out. Like, I don't know, putz around. If you don't like it, you lost $1.
That's it. 100%. Awesome, man. Well, like I said, thank you so much for coming on tonight and joining me and talking about a whole bunch of different things. And
always a pleasure, Joe. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Man of the people.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It can't be a better compliment for anyone. And I'm trying to live up to that. And I've even made some comments from people on the last podcast and stuff that I personally want to hear their wins. And I've had people coming and doing that. And they're coming out. They commented on the post. They said, "Hey, I did this today," and I'm like, "Awesome." Fantastic. So it's amazing. I'm trying to live up to that, and it means a lot. It really, really does. I appreciate that. It's a huge compliment coming from you and anyone else who mentioned. I know Glazer mentioned that too. So
I'm excited to follow your climb this month too. I think it's going to come so much smoother for you. Now that you've had your level up, you've evolved like a Pokemon.
Right, I've evolved like you know what? It was funny when I first started today and I got on ladder. I'm like, ooh, look at this! I'm starting at 73.
Yeah, and
I'm like, all right, this is all right.
But wait, hold on. Don't Pokemon normally get bigger when they evolve? Somehow you've gotten smaller, losing 40 pounds.
That was
looking real sharp in the face and the chin area.
Right? Yeah, that was the medical miracle thing that happened there. Yeah. Oh, awesome, guys. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one. If you're watching from the YouTubes, please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video as well. That helps me out a lot. If you're listening on audio, that's awesome. I love you guys. That's where I started and where I'll continue to be. You can always rate the podcast, which would be great if you could do that for me too. And then obviously tomorrow I will be talking to Felicity. Felicity, of course, is the one who is organizing SNAPCON. So I'll get a lot more information about SNAPCON, of which Gunny T is a part of. And I will talk to her tomorrow night. The video will be out probably around 8-ish or so. And then that will be, actually I'll have one more episode, a smaller one, to cover the OTA, because we are getting an OTA on Thursday. So I will have that out. The OTA reports will be out on Thursday at some point in time. But that is going to do it for myself and Gunny. Have a great rest of your night. Please stay safe, everyone out there. And hopefully I will see you all for the next one. This is your Snap DJ signing off.